Alright guys, we're doing exponent rules again, but this time we're doing quotient rule, and we're also doing add or subtract rule. Okay, so quotient rule and adding or subtracting. So, these are the two different rules we're going over. The first one we're going to talk about is quotient rule. Okay, and if you don't know what quotient means when you're dividing. Nope, that pen's stuck. Here we go, dividing. Okay, so quotient just means the answer to a division problem, so that's where that comes from. Okay, so the rule is that when you are dividing, you subtract your exponents. Okay, so when you're multiplying, you add them. When you're dividing, you subtract the exponents. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. And then remember, the key thing is that you treat the coefficients the same. Treat the coefficients the same. Okay, and what I mean by that is, if it's 10 divided by 2, you're going to actually divide them. Okay, you're not going to subtract those numbers. All right. So let's look at some examples here. Number 1. All right, I don't have any coefficients, so I have a division. So when I'm dividing, I'm going to subtract my exponents. Okay, so I put an x here, and 5 minus 2 is 3, and then I'll put my y. 3 minus, remember, if there is no exponent, the exponent's 1. So 3 minus 1 is 2. That's it. So I'm dividing, I have to subtract my exponents. Okay? Alright, now remember, if I have coefficients, I should treat them like normal. So I don't subtract these things. They're the big numbers, so I'm actually going to divide them. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Okay? And I have a's here. So 3 minus, there is no number there, so the number is 1. So 3 minus 1 is 2, so an exponent of 2. And then a b minus nothing, there's no b's here, is just a regular b. That just comes down. Alright, so we're dividing our coefficients, but we're actually subtracting those exponents. Okay, let's write this one down. Alright, so yet again, treat my coefficients like normal. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. That doesn't change. Then I have my m. 5 minus 2 is 3. Now look real quick here. When I have my n, 2 minus 2 is 0, which basically means it goes away. So if it's like the same, you can just cross it off. 2 minus 2 is 0. I don't even have to write an n. And then 3 minus, that's a 1 there. So 3 minus 1 is 2. So pause the video and have me come over if you don't understand why the n went away. But other than that, that is your answer. Okay? Now let's talk about adding or subtracting. This really isn't a rule. This is actually something you already know. But when you're adding or subtracting with decimals, you can only add or subtract if they're the same. They have to be the same. Okay? And then another thing you need to know is when you do add or subtract them, you do nothing with the exponent. You do nothing to the exponent. Let me explain what that means. Okay? You don't have to write this down. But remember when we did stuff like this, like 2x plus 3x equals? Well, these are the same, right? They both have x's, so 2 plus 3 is 5x, right? We don't do anything to the exponents. Well, the same thing's true here. So if you had 2x squared plus 3x squared, yeah, again, you don't have to write this, you're just looking. These are both x squareds, so I can add them. So 2 plus 3 is 5 x squareds. You don't add the exponents or anything. You don't do anything, you just rewrite them. Okay, just like what you've done before, but now we'll have some exponents there. Remember, treat the coefficients the same. Treat the coefficients the same. And what I mean by that is you're actually just going to add those coefficients, which you've done that before. That's nothing new, but just don't do anything with the exponents. So let's look at an example. Here's an example. 6x squared plus 3x squared. Okay, so these both have x squareds, right? So they're the same. So we can add them. If they were different, like that was a y squared, we couldn't add them. So since they're the same, we'll add them. 6 plus 3 is 9. And then we do nothing with we just rewrite them, x squareds. And that's it. Okay, you don't do anything to the exponent at all. Next one. 4a squared b minus 2a squared b. Okay, so do they both have a squared b? Yeah, they're the same. I know it looks weird, but they have the exact same thing on the back. So I actually can subtract them. So 4 minus 2 is 2. And then I just rewrite a squared b. You don't do anything else. Okay? And if that doesn't make sense, pause and call me over. But basically, if the back part's the same, you just add or subtract them, and then you don't do anything with your exponents. What about here? Here I have a squared, and here I have a. Are those the same? No, they're not. They're different. That's a squared, that's a. There's no squared there. So I cannot add these things together. So that's just my answer. 6a squared plus 3a. Because you cannot actually add them together. So that's the best you can do. Okay? Let's mix it up. And when it comes to problems like these, we just have to practice. You have to see what's going on. Okay? So, pause and write this down. And that's a number 3, by the way, if you can't tell. Or no, sorry, that's a 2. That's a 2. Alright, so this is division, because I have that division bar. So I'm going to divide my big numbers, and then I'm going to subtract my exponents. So 15 divided by 3 is 5. 10 minus 2 is 8. So a to the 8th power. 3 minus, there's no exponent, so it's a 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. Done and done. Pretty simple. What about this one? This is subtracting. So remember, when I'm adding or subtracting, they have to be the same. This is x squared. Is this x squared? Yes, it is. So I can actually subtract them. 12 minus 3 is 9. And then I just rewrite my x squared. I do nothing with my exponent. Alright, what about this one? Number 3. 8a squared b plus 3ab. This is a squared b. Is this a squared b? Is it the same? No. It's almost the same, but it's actually different. So I really can't do anything to it, so I just rewrite. 8a squared b plus 3ab. I can't actually add those things together. This last one, pause and write down if you need to. Alright, well there is no coefficient here, so you can think of it as like a 1. So 12 divided by 1 is just 12. And then when you're dividing, you subtract your exponents. So 5 minus 4 is 1. So you could put y with a 1 on it, or it could just be y. And then you would... So if you put a 1 there, that's fine. If you didn't, that's okay as well. Okay? Let's look at a word problem here real quick. You don't have to write it down word for word, but what is the perimeter of a triangle with side lengths of, and that says 4x squared plus y squared, or 2y squared, 6x squared, and x squared minus y squared. Okay? And real quick, this thing of a triangle, we had an assignment like this, and y'all completely messed this up. It says triangle, so do not write a rectangle. This is a triangle. It's a triangle. Draw a triangle. One side, it doesn't matter which side you label stuff, 4x squared plus 2y squared. The other side is 6x squared. And then one side is x squared minus y squared. And on this one, I'm going to go ahead and put some 1s in front because it makes me happy. Okay? Now, perimeter means I'm adding up all the sides. So I'm going to use my add rule, which basically means I can only add what looks alike, and then I do nothing with the exponent. Okay, so here's an x squared. Are there any other x squareds? So that's not an x squared, but this is. And this is. These are all x squareds. So I'm going to add them up. 4 plus 6 is 10. And 10 plus 1 is 11. So I have 11x squared. Okay? Then here I have a y squared, 2y squared, and over here I have a y squared. So what is 2 minus 1? Well, 2 minus 1 is a positive 1 y squared. And that's my answer. And you would actually write the perimeter, because I'm asking you a real question, you're going to put the perimeter is, and then you'd write that out. But there you go. Okay? So, you have the division rule, and you have adding or subtracting. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, get to work.